Every day, the Discovery Channel brings you the world, its people, cultures, traditions, and history. Now the Discovery Channel invites you to share in an historic first on American television. See television as 280 million Russians see it. Over the course of 8 days, the Discovery Channel will provide you with 66 hours of live television direct from Russia. Russia, live from the inside. See it for yourself. The Discovery Channel, expanding your world.
Hello, I'm Ruth Oddie. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Soviet primetime news broadcast, Vremya, and the preceding comments by Jonathan Sanders of the Harriman Institute at Columbia University. This has certainly been a fascinating week of discovery. Be sure to tune in tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific, for our continued telecast of programming from the Soviet Union. Here now is Dr. Sanders for an American perspective on the Soviet Union and Soviet television.
One of the most interesting aspects of Soviet television is its officialness as a state organ. When there is a major meeting, Soviet television covers things in full. And what's in full in the Soviet Union sometimes is much fuller than full in the United States. For instance, when Gorbachev went to Paris last year, Soviet television showed his plane leaving the airport in Moscow, then showed his plane flying in the air, showed it actually landing in Paris, pulling up to the official runway. He got out of the plane. They then showed them playing the full Soviet national anthem and the full French national anthem and the whole ceremony, because it was official. It was the medium of record, just like the New York Times, and they wanted to have the whole ceremony on.
Next, on the Discovery Channel, today's news as seen live in Russia.
Добрый вечер.
Здравствуйте, товарищи.
Good evening, comrades. Today is the second day of Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev's visit to Latvia. In the morning, he visited a production plant. In our country, we mainly receive information about the local production of radio receivers. However, this plant manufactures telephone equipment and other items, and more than 10,000 citizens of Riga work at the plant. This production plant produces electronic telephone switching stations, on the basis of which there are plans to establish a unified communication system throughout the country. There were numerous problems connected with the setting up of this production plant. Just to quote the figure of 800 different suppliers of the component parts, so that it is no easy task for the experts to maintain control. There have been discussions about this in the work section, and as so frequently occurred at such meetings, the internal production problems of the factory were examined together on the same level as problems linked with our country's economy, because with the flow of extremely modern electronic equipment, for example, where coal is mined, people are concerned by the very same issues. I would be interested to know how the foremen are feeling right now. It would seem that they are making decisions. Has this had an effect on your situation, the material or legal sense? Not yet, in the material sense. However, we have had to assume greater responsibilities. Do you have a teamwork system, which means that the foremen are dependent upon average production results? No, we don't, although we do have team workers. They are not dependent upon average output. Well, I don't know how you're going to be thinking about these things, since it will now be in your hands. However, there was an example of the case of the tractor manufacturing plant at Kharkovsk. The plant proved a failure because of difficult conditions. The foreman had left, conditions were bad, and nothing could hang together. The director took the wage fund which had been earmarked for the foreman, and he explained all this when he spoke at the conference in Moscow. The previous budget had provided for wages for 10 foremen. He took that wage fund He found and selected 5 or 6 outstanding foremen and paid them each 500 rubles. 1 month later, the entire corporation was rescued from failure and the entire factory resumed its work. Why don't you do the very same thing? You would need to deal with your foreman. Out of all of those who were there before, just one remained. They hired other workers from the other corporations. What is the general mood in your plant? Your collective workers seem to be mostly women. I see that there are some men. Did you have to change over to an alternating shift system? Yes. You know, the cost of our equipment might not be quite exact. The equipment is far more productive, and we need to put it to use. But do you also have some old equipment which could be thrown down? We don't have old equipment at our plant anymore. It is all new. We now have automatic machinery. Previously, work had to be done by hand. Well, the question I'd like to put to you is, if nothing is happening at your plant, if no changes are being made from the point of view of equipment, and you have done no major reconstruction, yet, well, how are you planning to produce better equipment? By working in single shifts or by alternating them? Did you divide the shifts arbitrarily or by chance? No, but we are expanding the number of our working staff. Oh, I see. Did it turn out that your staff, your first shift is manned only to 50 or 60%? No, 100%. However, the second shift is still not fully manned. So we still need some more workers. Are you aware that we have passed a decision about how to stimulate the second and evening shift? We will pay an additional 20% for the second shift and 40% for the night shift. But of course the city has to help out too with transportation system, facilities for children, shopping facilities. Do you have any more questions? No, no questions. Everyone seems to be in a fighting spirit here. They have been waiting for this reorganization, and we had felt some stagnation. Now they feel that they're being listened to more attentively. The human factor has become more important. Well, now they will begin to elect you. Yes, they will be electing you. I have been elected. Well, you see, I congratulate you. Congratulations. All the best to you. How are the workers? What kind of mood are they in? They are in a good mood. You see how they are all waiting for you in expectation, how we have all come to meet you. The bosses, the management apparatus, everything should be united. That is the most important thing of all, they told me, because we are doing such a great deal now in our country, which is not only opening up paths for people, but at the same time making higher demands of them. And naturally, we very much want everyone to understand this. This is not just necessary for me, but for each and every one of us. We have reached a stage where we have a great deal to reorganize. Of course, this requires a strengthened effort, creative endeavor, and even firmness at the center, in collective labor, and even in the family, throughout our society. Therefore, it is most important that we maintain our mutual understanding during these changes. And you can see the changes. You see you are moving ahead. The control has moved up to some of your men. 65% of our workers are women. They are my main support. As far as making working members more active, we are pushing for greater female participation and to establish women's councils. Women should not simply have to shoulder a heavy burden, even more than that of men. Let's be frank about it, because they carry the burden both at work and at home. But not always. Men are basically helping out at home these days. They are helping. I wish you all the very best. This is a food processing plant. The Director General of the plant is a hero of the Soviet Union. He's just made a joke that according to certain newspaper articles, our plant has become an appendage to their dining hall. There is some truth to this, and it is not just an appendage, but an offshoot of our most modern production plant. The inspection began with a visit to the prepared food store, located in the same building where the factory's dining hall is. During their half-hour break, the worker is able not only to eat his lunch, but also to buy prepared food for his family. The director of the plant now explains that he doesn't like putting things out for show. Everyone is aware of this. And this description today of the plant number 1 as the plant is called, is by no means an exaggeration. The plant is able to meet the workers' needs 100%. Robots are used for distribution. Dishes are served, carried on conveyor belts. Payment is made by computer, which gives change. By the way, one can even say that this dining hall is somewhat like a classroom. This is what the January plenary session of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union called the development of new approaches to restructuring. Of course, the work involved is tremendous, and we heard from the workers that they fully understood all this and are grateful both to the management and to the workers at the food processing plant. It is a fact that the staff turnover has dropped on the average by half. Of course, there are problems too. They were referred to by the director, Mr. Kozlovsky. Due to the improved technology, they have been able to free roughly half of the staff. However, they are not allowed to do as they like with the wage fund available. So it seems that the enthusiastic workers who are giving their full energy and talents to the food plant are working on an equal basis with workers who are still using the old methods and not being as productive. This problem was also the subject of conversation. This is a fine plant. I think that if we had a plant such as yours in all our corporations, it would considerably change the situation all around. We will continue to work on this. I wish you every success.
Mikhail
Sergeyevich Gorbachev then visited a sports association. I would like to sit and listen to what you have to say.
О структуре партийной организации. Да нет, это не надо. Что там? Надо говорить о том.
We need to talk about how things are going, how restructuring is progressing, what the problems are, what new interesting things are taking place in party organizations. And first of all, I would like to hear from you what you think of the January plenary session, but not only from the point of view of being in favor or against, but from the point of view of the conclusions which you yourselves drew. I think perhaps some would agree with me that the January plenary established all the guidelines which we are following today. There are many elements which were raised at the January plenary session which had already, to some degree, been tested out, because the circumstances forced us to move towards restructuring. It was clear that we were to fully embrace the human factor. This is the most important thing today. But this should not be just a passing remark, not just as a token. Did the communists change at all at the meetings in their attitude? we have greater worker performance, it is no longer just a question of whether or not to criticize. We are all criticizing. The secretaries of the party organizations gathered together and suggested the following. Well, let's take a critical look at your staff. Come and criticize. Tell us what you think. Say something critical. But if we just do this, we'll just be toying with criticism. What we really need is the kind of situation and atmosphere where it would just be natural and normal standard phenomenon. Openness and criticism is a very serious business, comrades. Everyone simply has to understand that without openness and criticism of our shortcomings, without seeking for criticism on the basis of openness, a solution to acute problems and the adoption of necessary measures will be impossible. We will have no progress in our collective, in our republic, or in our country. This is what we are talking about. We are talking about very great issues, tremendous issues. Did I help you out? No, no, no. Don't speak up for each other. I see that here before me are people who wish to move forward to meet these new demands and requirements of our time and understand. Well, we are talking here a lot about criticism. Well, criticism is never sweet. We all know that. We, the party workers, need to restructure ourselves. Occasionally it occurs, and I know this from my own work. Sometimes when you listen to the collective workers, some workers speak out very sharply. Sometimes the causes are objective. Sometimes they complain about things that things have not yet been delivered. And now the party members and the leaders of our economy need to become more aware and ask themselves, first and foremost, what they themselves have done. There is a large problem connected with working with young people in the Young Communist League. I can say that I have very few young people from the Young Communist League. I consider this to be a problem of national scale. And not just for us. So I tried to move this work ahead. Thus I brought in people from my department, my party organizations. We decided to move the work ahead in the following manner, to talk it over with the young people, the members of the Bureau, and at the Young Communist League meetings, to see what they basically want. As I see it, the Young Communist League members are somewhat sluggish. They want to go to discotheques. They say, give us more transportation. Now, as far as how many we have on the job, we do not get from the Young Communist League what we expect of them. It is very good thing that you have come here to speak out. Tell me what you are thinking, because now the greatest reproach I hear from the young people is that no matter how we meet or where we meet, on any level, you immediately start to lecture us and dictate to us, and nobody has really listened to us to hear what we really think.
No, we have listened to them. I would even say that in my factory I have been working with the Young Communist League, and there's been some progress on that score. We have already had our first, well, truly authentic Young Communist League meetings, and some sections have been particularly active, such as one of our automated sections. But for some of them, we even have to take secretaries in hand to organize such activities and urge them to give some thought to the idea that we really do need to work with young people to guide them towards the achievement of certain goals. That's very necessary. I am a worker in our association. I am a worker and secretary of the party organization of the small-scale production section of our association. I must say that there are no workers in our section who are not for restructuring. Everyone is for restructuring. Some are waiting to see what happens, some are keeping quiet, but others come right out and say that this, and this needs to be done. Something is needed. People are taking a more active part. That's right. They have become more active. There are not many people who are passive. People want to change things, get things going. Criticism has been mentioned. Yes, we do criticize things, a lot of things, particularly at party meetings. All of us, communists and workers, get together and discuss the deep problems which are bothering people, and not only ones that have to do with the parties. So, you see, you're right. You have to think about things which are of real concern, not something that's forced upon you. Yes, things that really worry people. And I can say that many problems have not been solved. For instance, there was one question, and I would like to give a specific example. We don't only criticize, we also make our own proposals. Now, in this particular case, in 1979, our factory became an association. And therefore, groups, the production units became bigger. What happened is that all controllers and regulators who work right in a given section are now considered to be part of that section's workforce. And yet, when that section does manage to meet its production plan targets, they do not receive any additional payment. Even now, I don't understand why this happens. After all, these people work only in that section. That's where they work, and yet they don't get a bonus. The end result is that people who do want to do something, want to change things, are not encouraged to do so. I think that's unfair. We came up with these proposals, not just once, but several times, and it turned out that it's not enough to change what happens on the section level or even on the production unit level, but that the entire system in the association has to be changed. Well, it might really be a good idea to get together and look into this. We probably should even have come here earlier, as you said. We also need some restructuring, it seems. But the very fact that we have managed to talk to each other for a little while is symptomatic of the situation, and I will tell you why. Now, I'd like to say this. First of all, I have been planning to come to Latvia for a long time, and now that I've managed to come here, it is my great wish, to the extent that a short trip permits, to familiarize myself with the area, to learn more about it, to see it with my own eyes, to listen to what people have to say, to exchange opinions, to say something to people. And during my stay, I have found that contacts with people are a great source of satisfaction to me. Do you know the main reason for that? I've noticed that there is an enormous amount of interest in what is going on as a result of the decisions taken at the plenum and as a result of our policies intended to speed up the social and economic development of our country, and our efforts at openness, open-mindedness, and democracy, all of which are of great interest to people. And they're not just pretending to be interested. But for some reason, again, people ask me the same thing. Mikhail Sergeyevich, keep it up, forge ahead. So there seems to be some doubt that all of this has really gained momentum and put down roots, so to speak, and that no one will be able to sweep these policies away. We believe, especially after the January plenum and its answer, that restructuring efforts will continue. But you should know that far from everyone has become involved in our restructuring campaign. So, comrades, that is the first thing that I have to hear about. It was also interesting to hear the last two statements, the ones made by workers themselves, speaking from the vantage point of their place in the workforce. They confirm what I've been saying, which is that really none of the workers are against restructuring. And maybe even, and I should perhaps be a bit more precise and say that maybe there are some who are against it, as some do not support the ideas behind restructuring, either because it touches on some sore spot, threatens them with losing their comfortable life, or they have no strength left for change, or they like the life they have right now. It offends them. But they see that as all workers and the bulk of the population are behind restructuring and renewal, they keep quiet. Which means that, nonetheless, the upshot is very important. That is, basically, our country supports restructuring. It's important for the people to take a more active part in public life, to be more courageous, in other words. I think that people have a lot of suggestions to make. Just look at what was said here. Everything that has happened today is proof of that. It is an interesting proposal, a very interesting proposal that was put forward here. Particularly the idea of how this work should be organized and how people's lives should be organized. I would like to say that, of course, we could not hope that this enormous campaign to restructure and renew all aspects of our society would be some kind of short-term campaign. First and foremost, we must somehow, by becoming more aware about the situation, understand and get people to see that this restructuring is needed, and that without it we will not be able to achieve bigger and better things, nor will we be able to solve our society's problems as we move towards life on a new qualitative level, as the expression goes. Changes are needed in our economy. Major shortcomings and defects have occurred in the social field. We can see that many matters of importance in people's spiritual health have been seriously neglected, and the same can be said of the ideological field. All of this needs to be thought through carefully and then resolved. We basically understand the major things that must be done. Now, each individual collective, each city, each party organization must do it, and all these objectives will materialize. Party activists and skilled workers working here in labor collectives are responsible for doing this. Therefore, this is my first impression as a result of our meeting, of talking with you and asking your opinion of the January plenum and reaction to it. Real, open, and honest support is very important. It's the most important thing, as it is that which, in the final analysis, lays the foundation on which the thoughts and actions of our people will be restructured. That's my first point. The second is that I have known about your association for a long time through your products, and we are looking into some questions related to it, and in particular have approved the initiative you have shown by your careful study of the system used for providing services to the workers and employees of your labor collective. Your efforts have been commended by the Central Committee and recommended as a very good example for the rest of the country. I have the feeling that your association has reached a crossroad, a turning point. Now, having talked with the management and representatives of science, the information I have is from the minister, really. We have reached the stage when you must embrace all that is new in terms of technology and design and everything, and use technology to solve problems. You are at a point from which you can see that on the right is new technology, and on the left, people are still making fishing nets by hand, like the Riga fishermen used to do in the good old days. Maybe they still do it even now. But what I mean is that on the right, there are already new technical and technological approaches, and there are plans there to use such approaches. And that is very necessary, comrades. We must change the technical level and technical basis on which our enterprises operate by introducing new technology. First of all, the very nature of people's work is changed, and that's important in social terms. But also, without new technology, you cannot anticipate and solve problems long before they occur. Therefore, I should like to express my approval of your plans and programs. There may be some defects here. Your manager and I have agreed that if there are problems in the factory, he will tell me about them, and then perhaps we can support you in solving them, especially in view of the fact that you are making an enormous contribution here. I also got the feeling here how important it is now to have a responsible attitude towards each other, and for collectives which supply each other to behave responsibly. And the need for this can be particularly felt in your production process. First, you have to use the new methods coming your way. For instance, state approval makes it possible to take real advantage of the method of continuous monitoring of everything coming in from your suppliers, and from being too dependent on them. It helps you to prevent being too dependent on them. Second, I think that we have to give more thought to contacts we have at the ministerial level, to making these contacts more viable. What has happened is that we're already well into the year, and certain problems have not yet been solved, such as the problem of fund allocations. You need to replenish your supplies. Therefore, I am very sorry you had to stop production in January. We in the Politburo looked at this. We discussed the economic figures for January, which had a very negative impact on certain branches of the economy, especially the engineering branch. First of all, Now, the iron and steel industry, when it came to meeting its production targets, did not produce the assortment range contained in the plan. It did not produce metal of the required quality, the required assortment. Now, let's look at chemicals, rubber technology, and plastics. These branches fell short of their targets in this respect as well. The bearings field was also hard hit, and there are some other less vital branches which do not live up to their goals. I think that measures are being taken on associations in the ministry, and that this situation will improve or be worked out. But you have to establish workable links with your suppliers. Now, suppose you introduce a new model, a new type of product, a new generation of products. In practical terms, you're capable of doing that. I've looked around, you have a great future ahead of you. But now what you need to do is to start on your constructive phase. You have to get everyone involved. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you do not establish a business relationship with them, you will offer to produce a certain item, you'll be ready to start production, but your suppliers will not be ready. Or they'll supply you with low-quality goods to replace stock. The end result will be that quality will be shoddy and the goods will last a shorter time. And that's the real situation now. What you have to do is to interact with suppliers using new methods and economic measures. Basically, in the long run, we must reach a situation where collectives work together, where plans for the future are pursued as set forth by your plan and your management, as the technical policies of the branch must be decided upon in the light of world trends, but the collectives are responsible for everything else. They must use scientific methods and deal with their suppliers. This is the way things should work. Comrades, a great deal is going to change as a result of the law on enterprises, the self-financing system, self-supported running of enterprises, the enterprise's ability to pay its way without subsidies, the appointment of skilled workers by election planning, which has been unrealistic in the past. What happened before was not participation by the collective in planning, but rather the collective was informed of planning as presented in the draft plan. These are two different things. There's a place for everything, and we must put things in their place. It is through all these methods, through economic methods, electoral methods, and popular participation, that we must promote democracy in the production unit. This is the most important arena. If we truly involve people in this effort, we can solve problems. That's why I was so worried by the statement made by your party organization representative. What was your name? Comrade Gavrilyuk. But what he said was very interesting. You go to a meeting like he came here. First of all, he gets advice from communists and comrades to find out what he should say, who's having trouble where. After discussing things, he goes to his meeting armed with the opinions of the collective.
He says it once, twice, yet everything remains the same. That's the first thing, and it's not good. Secondly, they rarely visit each other. That's just what I'm referring to. Our management level people sit by themselves in their offices. They should have time to consider everything, resolve problems, because if the director is spending his time going around the plant and not dealing with supply shipments and creating a good foundation for production, this director will not be doing his job. The workers, after all, have their job, specialists and foremen theirs. Engineers, designers, and power engineers have theirs. The director has his. This is also very important. But the director, engineer, and others at the management level cannot understand or feel what production really is, or catch problems in time as they arise, if they will simply be relying on statistics. I was greatly pleased with shop number 1 of your plant, which is from the standpoint of schools outfitted very well, as well as places for recreation, sports activities, and so on. There are problems, particularly with housing. The director also reported on that. In any event, I feel that I have come here to the plant at a turning point, and I hope you will overcome these difficulties you are meeting at this crossroads, and will begin turning out product that will be highly competitive on the world market. and which will be in great demand and highly valued on the domestic market as well. May you meet the challenge, and allow me to wish you health and success in your tremendous undertaking. Thank you. And there was one more meeting with the residents of the resort city of Urmali. And there's been so much talk about quality, Mikhail Sergeyevich. You know, I would like to say that we are extremely concerned about the quality issue. First of all, everyone in our society is tired of this problem. No one wants to reconcile himself to this situation, but we each must understand, okay, fine, you're making a tractor. It goes off to the kolkhoz, and there they check your quality out. It's another matter when you go to the store, buy a television, turn it on, and the tube burns out. Another person buys something, you see, a fourth, and so on. In other words, we all have to deal with this. We cannot overlook it. And that's the point we're at now. And you won't have anything without quality, nothing. And quantity wouldn't matter either. It's all wasted. Resources, labor, everything. The reason for even getting up in the morning and scurrying off to work, it would all be lost. And you see, we can't work that way. Only socialism could have withstood all this for so long. Capitalism would have fallen apart long ago. So what we are trying to do is far from simple. It goes without saying. We know that it affects the worker, the engineer, the designer, everyone. But we cannot hide from it. If anyone can propose anything better, let them step forward. And I must say, frankly, that we have been greatly pleased by the working classes' stand in this. You've been focusing on the private sector. Wouldn't it be better to deal more with the public sector? May I ask this kind of question? You may. I will be happy to answer it. You know, at first glance, it may seem that we have been focusing on the private sector and are doing something there. Yet in reality, it's gone so far, well, and which private sector? The individual sector is the kolkhoz. Yet the kolkhoz member has gone off to the city to buy groceries. But what do you feel? Is that normal? But does a kolkhoz farmer even go to the market anymore? They've used to do it all themselves, but they've given it up. The peasant has given up his orchards, cattle. And I can tell you that we've looked at how our friends are handling this. You know that, by the way, we have phased out trade corporations. We felt that was a good thing. And now, it turns out that any small deal is turned down by large-scale industry. But we no longer have the trade corporations. And suddenly I arrive in the Baltic area, and I believe I even told my comrades at the plenum, one of our workers, and from where? Chelyabinsk, a metallurgical center. And he writes a letter. Mikhail Sergeyevich, we're reporting in. I'm resting well. The service here is great. Everything is fine. And the main thing, I'm happy. He says, I've sent off 5 kilograms of nails. From the Baltic, he sends nails to his home. Where? To the Chelyabinsk district, which is literally drowning in metals. Things have gone so far that we're bogged down with these kinds of small matters. Try to buy something. And do you know, where they're sending axes to Siberia? And it's these kinds of things that we have to clear up. People can join together. Someone told us, where was that? Yesterday, the exhibit. A plant is operating, it discharges waste, everything. And now this plant at the factory, a radio specialist told us this. They've, from the waste, have built a cooperative venture for those who are no longer working at the plant, the retired and so on. And it was agreed that a cooperative is, of course, not private, it's a cooperative. They join together and make parts of the plant from the waste, from the discharges, which means we're making use of our riches. People who can still work are using their spare time to work extra. And this question, I can go from question to question here. But let me ask you a question. Where and how do you repair your apartments? Tell me honestly. We do it ourselves. And where do you get cement, paint? Where do you buy it? Wherever you can, huh? Listen, we have to establish repair organizations, repair centers. I know this all. That's how it is in life. And so it seems, what is it in our country? We are not saying this is a private one, but did it set up its own hiring procedures? No, we won't have hired labor. There will be no exploitation here, but when a cooperative venture is created, is that a private organization or not? It's a cooperative. It is the same one for which Lenin fought. First of all, the cooperative receives all its resources from the state and under state control. And our system is now so powerful with its centralization, if any problem appears, we will clean it out quickly enough. This isn't the problem. The problem is that no one wants to deal with this kind of thing. The decisions have all been made, yet no one wants to see them through. But why are we afraid? We're afraid of ourselves. We've grown so used to doing things this way, that way, and we don't even have faith in the person who was born under the Soviet system, who knows no other kind, nor any other kind of economic system. You know, I basically do not believe that everything will go perfectly smoothly, that there will be no mistakes. There will, of course, be mistakes. What do you think? That never happens or something? It does happen. It happens. But the basic major aim of ours is, first, that is, we will go nowhere without scientific and technological process. And second, the human interest, political, moral, so that when a person going to the plant, the city, and so on, would feel that he would have the desire to be at work. We need to create this kind of atmosphere. And therefore, when we speak of democracy, the question then arises, you spoke yesterday of voting. Please, if everything does take off, and it will, the time comes and we don't even know who we have voted for. Were you aware that everything I said at the plant was recorded? Elections, teams in the plants, the directors, they all have it in their drafts. And we are now working out changes for the electoral system. And during this year's elections, to the councils and the people's deputies, we're going to try an experiment, so that by the end of the year, we will have gained experience and we will draft modifications to the electoral system. Make your proposals. Let 3, 4, 5, 10 people and more, let them all make proposals. Let them think about why they have recommended someone. Let them take a hard look at why they have chosen a particular candidate. What's so surprising here? Of course, there will be mistakes. We all know this, your collective, the city. Thank you. Thank you. Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev visited the Adizhe Ego firm near Riga this afternoon. Just last year, it was still a kolkhoz of rather typical dimensions for this republic, but it was quite unique in its structure and production organization. The General Secretary emphasized yesterday at the Riga exhibit of people's economic achievements that industry needs to produce new efficient equipment to more extensively process agricultural products. Adizhe has taken the entire processing job upon itself. It is called an agro firm because it manufactures, processes, and markets products, and has its own kiosks and stores in Riga. Every bit counts, as they say, but it grossed 14 million rubles last year. This meeting is taking place on the agro firm's milk products division. Albert Kaus, division manager, hero of socialist labor, candidate of agricultural sciences. There are already 7 specialists here with advanced degrees and 200 staff members with a college education. This is not by chance, of course, because the level of work here is highly science-intensive. I like the fact that you have everything centered with one complex here. This animal husbandry is a basic indicator of how the operation is running. And this milk production complex is really illustrative of everything. It's a mirror. Everything is here. The end product of plants breeding, the results of animal husbandry, selection in these areas, work methods, level of the staff, everything. The entire social issue is focused right here. How is the supply of goods in the village? I'd say that it's fine, it's good, yes, it's fine. Both for food and industrial goods? Yes. Does everyone share this view? But there clearly must be some problems that come up of one kind or another. And are the schools and the kindergartens, are they fine? Very good, good. That's good. That means you have taken care of your children. And what about housing here? It's better in the country. It's better in the country. So it varies. But then there is no really major problem. You're all basically set up. You each have your own corner, but any other problem might be for space or something. Some people might have a bit tighter space. Of course, that's natural. That's natural. And what about the order issue? Since the campaign against alcoholism, has it reached you? It has. It has reached you. So there is better order here then. It's better on the streets, at home. It's better. Boys now go fishing with their fathers when they have time. I should point out that in this regard, we will discuss your kolkhoz, but I was tremendously impressed by the idea of your kolkhoz, of your agro-firm, your plant, where you have production, processing, storage, and the end products all together. It's a good plan. You don't lose anything when it's all focused in one spot. But we need managers. Managers, right. But I will tell you that we will be supportive of these, let's say, trends. The managers will appear too. We have now matured, our society has matured to the point where we can adequately run our economy and the social sphere. You're quite right. Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev visited the village school. Hello, children. Well, we've got masters of an even higher class here. He also visited the local kindergarten. In the conversations that took place here, the General Secretary emphasized that the Adizhe experience is attractive because of its ongoing daring experiments. Due to its scope of economic thinking, the broad views of its management, this plant has become the crossroads of the most innovative trends. It is a prime example of how our economy, based on the agro-industrial complex, is now ready to convert to an even higher level of output. Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev then met with communists, management, top specialists, and the best workers from Adizhe. This afternoon, Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev was shown the Domsk Concert Hall. The Riga Domsk Cathedral is one of the area's oldest architectural sites. Having witnessed nearly the entire history of Riga since 1211. In 1883-84, an organ was constructed here, which at the time was considered the largest in the world. In 1919, when Soviet power was established in Latvia, secular music was heard for the first time here. And now, the Domsk Cathedral, for a quarter of a century, has been a concert hall. That was our coverage of Comrade Gorbachev's second day in Latvia.
Stay tuned for more of Russia Live from the Inside on the Discovery Channel. The Discovery Channel is 18 hours edition of Russia Live from the Inside. Will resume tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern.